Now, the Indian space firm Skyroot Aerospace has unveiled what is the country's first privately designed and developed orbital-class rocket. It is called Vikram 1. This rocket is expected to perform its maiden flight through space in the first quarter of 2024. This is a milestone for the country's fledgling space sector that has seen significant growth over the last 3 years. Following the rollout of the space sector reforms by the Indian government in ISRO, the reforms now enable private firms to design, to develop, to build and to launch their very own rockets, satellites, launch vehicles and offer allied services as well. The Indian space sector has always been dominated by the Indian government-run ISRO and is now expected to remain so for the foreseeable future. But the mushrooming of the startups is expected to now improve the spread and the size of the Indian space economy. Union Minister of State for the Ministry of Science and Technology, Jitendra Singh, unveiled the Skyroot Aerospace's new headquarters, MaxQ, at the GMR Aerospace and Industrial Park in Hyderabad. He also ended up unveiling the Vikram 1 orbital launch vehicle. Now, addressing the media, Union Minister Jitendra Singh said that he lauds the project and calls it a massive push for the space sector in the country. Let's quickly listen into what he said.
6 to 7 decades, India's space sector had functioned behind what I would say as a veil of secrecy. So we had self-imposed shackles which were depriving ourselves from the large pool of resources that India has, both talent-wise as well as investment-wise. So once it's been opened up to public-private participation, they were among the Skyroot was the first to have launched their rocket called Vikram from Sriharikota, and I'm glad within a few months they have graduated to the next level. They now have their own rocket manufacturing unit, which is in fact the largest in India, one of the largest in the world.
All right, another feather in the cap of the private space sector in our country. And Group Captain Vienja also on the telecast with me. Sir, first of all, congratulations to the country, to the space sector, to you too. As we grow in terms of harnessing our capabilities as a space sector powerhouse.
Oh yes, Meghaji, thank you very much for bringing up the subject of space science to before your crowd. NewsX has been doing so often, and I compliment you for this for bringing science to the average viewers of yours. You know, we have earlier also sat down and discussed about this particular step of government of India, wherein Modi government had opened the sector to the private players also, because ISRO alone cannot handle it with the challenges, with the volume of the space launches that are pending before the world. Cannot. So it is very pertinent for the private players to have come into it. And a bit of hand-holding has already been done by Government of India as well as by ISRO, that they have given some of their technology transfer to the private players. And it is for the private players now to take the entire the science of technology to the people. Now, people here are the one which is not only India, but it is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Today, in the world, there are about 1,000 odd satellites which are awaiting launch. And for that 1,000 satellites, you need that many of the launchers, the rockets, to put them in the respective orbits. So there's a huge demand right now. As on now, there's a huge demand.
Yeah.
And I compliment Skyroot that they have taken this initiative and they have come up with almost about 350 plus kg of payload being put into the respective orbits. That is important. You know, just for your viewers, let me inform you that when we inject an object into an orbit, its velocity has to be orbital velocity. And in LEO, low Earth orbit, the velocity of the objects need to be anything from 7.8 kilometers per second. Megha, just notice it. 7.8 kilometers per second in the lower part of the LEO to about 7.2 kilometers at the higher part of the LEO. So that immense velocity is crucial for the object to remain in orbit. And Skyroot has demonstrated so, at least in their simulation right now. And I'm sure with the many stages of the rocket that they will have this capability. So I compliment Skyroot for having achieved this. And it is, these days we don't see that you touch the moon. No, they are going to touch much more than anything which is in the moon.
Right.
So they are right track to take it.
Absolutely. Dr. V. Selvamoorthy also on the telecast with me. He's the former DRDO Director General. He's the President at Amity University currently. So it's so good to have you on the telecast with us. And if I could just quickly understand from you the minutiae of the two launches that have been done now by Skyroot. One is the rocket that was launched with the help of the ISRO launch vehicle, and this time around the rocket that they have been able to create is then going to launch missiles or these spacecrafts up into the lower orbit. So what's the difference?
See, it is very important to bring the private players in space, and that is happening now. And because the world market for space science technology is growing rapidly, exponentially, leaps and bounds in terms of its market demand. Because there are about 20,000 satellites to be launched in the next 10 years. So that's a huge 2,000 per year. And they are small satellites for different applications. And space is being looked at for both strategic application, that is defense and security application, and also the other civilian application. So for which you need satellites. So that is why you will see the launch of satellites from the private sector has to come, and it has come. And this is a revolutionary policy, as was mentioned by Group Captain Jha, that government under the leadership of Shri Narendra Modi ji has brought in this revolutionary policy to bring the private players. And Skyroot on 18th November 2022, that's a year ago, and they launched the first Vikram S. Vikram, as you all know, the father of space technology in our country, Indian space science and technology, is Vikram Sarabhai. So in his honor, in his memory, that this, the launch vehicle is known as Vikram S, the first one, and now the Vikram 1 is going to be launched perhaps between February and March in the first quarter of 2023. And so the difference is that this will be going up to an altitude of about 300 kilometers, which is a low Earth orbit, and it will also carry almost 300 kg payload. And this has got this solid motors. The initial propulsion will be solid fuel, and then subsequently at a higher altitudes, it will be propelled by the liquid fuel. And then you would also see that this has capability for multi-orbital insertions. That means you can put the satellites in different orbits, inject into the different orbits as it keeps going. Like ISRO demonstrated its capability to launch 104 satellites in one launch. Similar thing is possible using this launch vehicle Vikram 1. But then this will be the first one. Then we have Vikram 2, Vikram 3. These are all slated. So the whole roadmap and the time schedules are very well established now. So this is going to be a very big leap in terms of the private players. Skyroot compliments to all the people concerned in Skyroot. In fact, one of them was here in Amity University last week, and Pawan was here. So we are looking forward to also Amity University to partner with Skyroot, and we are signing an MOU with them. So this university and the startup hand-holding will also come in a big way. That is necessary for them to look at futuristic technology. So that will be seeded in universities. So I think it's a great initiative.
Then Dr. Selvamoorthy, with these launch vehicles that are being manufactured by private space sector companies, the likes of Skyroot, that is pioneering this trend in our country, is there a possibility of collaborations between various private sector entities across the globe, maybe US or UK or France, And what could be the genesis of it? What is it that could be the possibilities that could be achieved by the global private sector coming together?
Yes. See, the global picture, if you look at the private sector, is in a big way. You can look at space tourism. It's all done by the private sector. And the launch vehicles are also in the private sector. So this is there, already happening there. But now with Skyroot, once they demonstrate such capabilities, there is a very ample opportunity, and I hope that many of the players, global players, will join hands. And also the investors, not only from India, as it is, Skyroot has got investors, the angel investors, not only from India, from across the globe, they have already got investment of a very high order. So this is going to increase, and there will be collaborations between the private players, startups, with other even established ones from the other countries will also come in a big way, because our scientists have to prove their reliability. Second one is cost effectiveness, because this is going to be a winning factor for the Skyroot or any private sector. That if we keep these two, reliability on one side of the launch vehicles, so that they will come, all this satellite launch people, instead of going to ISRO, everyone going there, they will come to private players. Because here, you can launch on demand, because in 24 hours, you can launch a Vikram 1 or 2, because the time taken to assemble it and then launch it is very, very short. So if you need quickly for a rescue operation or for a military operation, you need a satellite to be there in the LEO, so they can do it from the private sector very fast. So I see the private collaboration coming not only from India, but also from across the globe coming into our private sector. It could be a startup, it could be an MSME. So it will come in.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Group Captain Jha, now talking about what is the purpose? What is it that we can take advantage of when it comes to this private sector, when it comes to Skyroot launching satellites? One, we talk about from the completely touristic perspective. We take a look at SpaceX, we take a look at Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson, we have Elon Musk. Elon Musk has been trying to send a person on into the space. Something similar was done by Virgin Galactic. Now, besides that, besides the space adventures that these entrepreneurs want to unravel when they travel to space, and I don't know, even the moon, but what are the other aspects of it that India can look at, the world can look at, in terms of the advantages that we can garner?
Megha, actually, there are many applications that we have been imagining on. And when it comes to the private sector, say like what right now we are talking about Skyroot carrying 360 kgs of the payload. See, those were the days when Aryabhatta, that weighed immense, it was heavy. And those technologies today have transformed into the nanotechnology, MEMS technology, and today an effective, highly effective satellite weighs just about 30 odd kgs. So if a highly advanced satellite today weighs 30 odd kgs, you can carry about 9 to 10 such satellites in one launch of the Skyroot.
Okay.
Remember just about few months back when ISRO had launched its GSLV LVM Mark III for launching the one-wave 36 odd satellites. So that is at the high end. Those satellites are heavy, but today's high-tech satellites are weighing just about anything from 7 kgs to 30 odd kgs. And there comes the private sector now, say like Skyroot or many others will be coming in the future days. So these are the highly advanced miniaturized satellites with the nanotechnology, with the MEMS technology. And there are various types of satellites. It could be Earth observation, geoanalytic, communication, navigation, remote sensing, optics, electromagnetic sensor controls. All these things you can think of today. What Indian Air Force AWACS, early air warning and control system, that does. Similar work can be done by a satellite high up there in the sky, looking at our territory beneath, and the same, all functions can be replicated from their space. something that even the enemy will not come to know about it.
Okay, so are you saying that the space programs and agencies of a country can then work in collaboration with private sector and allow for satellite launches into orbits? And what is the difference between a satellite being launched by a private player versus that being done by ISRO?
No difference at all. See, I told you in the beginning itself, a satellite needs to be injected in an orbit. If even the military of, say, Army of India, Armed Forces of India, if it wishes to launch a small satellite less than that 360 kgs, now ISRO LVM, that will not will not come into fore, because for them, if it is 4 tons, 3 tons, 3.5 tons, that is the type of payload that they will need. But if it is, 100 kgs, 200 kgs, 300 kgs, they will not waste the entire type of energy and the technology onto that, entire rocket onto that. So small satellites, Skyroot or some other, which can carry 100 kgs, 200 kgs, 300 kgs, and inject them in the precision orbit. That is, the injection is the technology, how you inject into that at the velocity that I was trying to tell you, that in case if you fall short of that velocity, your satellite is going to fall down. Do you remember about 2 years back, SpaceX had launched their satellites,
yes,
and all 36 satellites, they all fell down.
Yeah.
Just for one small reason, that the final velocity achieved was less than the orbital velocity, and all of them, they fell down into the atmosphere and they burned down. So that is the type of intricacies involved here. So tomorrow, in case if Indian Air Force or any armed forces of the world have got a small satellite to be launched in a given orbit, at a given inclination, at a given height, it could be launched by India. And same thing is being done today by the world over. Some of our satellites are being launched by Ariane. There are other things also. It is a rocket science, Megha, I tell you. Why some rockets are being launched by India, some rockets are being launched by Ariane, some by Soviets. That also depends where it is going to stay and what is the inclination, what is the target area that they are trying to put it there, including the geostationary and geosynchronous satellites.
Okay.
So it depends upon where you are going to put it and which is the most appropriate launch pad.
Okay.
So all these considerations come to play. That is how all these are going to be relevant in the coming time.
That's very interesting. Dr. Selvamurthy, then what is the economics of it? How can India and the Indian private space industry get maximum leverage out of the support that ISRO has shown in hand-holding Skyroot and other space agencies?
See, it is a good model of public-private partnership. Even the Skyroot, the founder, if you look at, they had a stint in ISRO, whether it is Mr. Pawan Chandana or Mr. Bharat Dhaka. They're in fact former ISRO scientists. So the know-how, the training, the capacity building, the knowledge. So it's a good model, and ISRO is doing a hand-holding. It is not that they are left to on their own. So ISRO, as a part of the government, is fully mentoring, guiding, facilitating, catalyzing the whole activities of the private sector in the initial stages, which is required. So it is not just only Skyroot, and there are many more in space sector coming in. So they will do that. They will require that initial hand-holding. But as Jha was mentioning, that one is payload. What will determine who will go to ISRO, who will come to private sector will be, one is the payload. Is it now the capability today with Skyroot is only 300 kg. So if it is more than 500, 600 or 1 ton, immediately they will look at ISRO because they have a heavy payload launch capability. The other is the level, the orbit. If it is low Earth orbit, today it is only that capability to reach LEO. But ISRO has got a capability to reach even the higher orbits. So when you talk about 40,000 kilometer altitude, or you want 1,000 kilometer altitude, then those kind of orbits, the ISRO has got the capability. So one will be the payload, and the other will be at what level you are going to put the satellites. So these two will decide whether you should go to ISRO or you have to go to a private sector.
Okay.
Yeah.
Group Captain Jha, then we see space was emerging once again. We saw that last in 1950s and 1960s between Soviet Union and it was United States of America. Later on, after a huge lull, there was China that also got into the space wars, and now there's a resurgence of it with India and ISRO also fighting it out. We see Chandrayaan, there's going to be Gaganyaan, and there is also going to be more exploration done on Mars and Venus, in terms of the massive plans that various global space agencies have. Now, could we also see space wars when it comes to the private sector, private industries, private companies? Obviously, the two very famous ones, SpaceX, everybody the world over, people know about it, and the other one is Virgin Galactic and these have been their owners, their founders have been very flamboyant people, because exploration of any kind, whether we talk about deep sea or we talk about space, this is an expensive affair. It's not as if a common man can actually go about spending millions and millions of dollars to go travel to space or even to moon. You never know. So this is a high cost proposition. This is also the women fancy of the rich, is what it is being looked at. And could India be a game changer in it?
Absolutely. There is a big gap in the expectations and the provisioning of the private space player in the space tourism. You named Blue Origin or the other Virgin Galactic. What they are doing, they are just sending a rocket or the craft which goes suborbit. I mean, it doesn't touch even the von Karman line, 100 kilometers. It doesn't go to the space. It just comes short of that, and from there it drops down and comes back to the Earth. What sort of thrill one will have? As I have published a couple of articles onto this, both Blue Galactic as well as the Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin, both of them, they are able to impart about 3 minutes or so of the microgravity, and that too within a space which is cramped up. They can't even put their hands like this and float in the craft. No, they cannot do that. So it's a limited pleasure of the microgravity that they are giving. They are not even able to give the pleasure of looking at the sunset and sunrise, which happens every 45 minutes, 90 minutes. There you have sunset and sunrise all together in the International Space Station or any other orbit LEO. Usually it makes a complete round in about 90 minutes. So those things are missing right now in those Virgin Galactic as well as the Blue Origin. So there are many things in the coming days that the new players will offer, and the people from the world over would like to spend fortunes into this. If you are going to show them how the sunrise looks like there from the space. When you see that small diamond coming out at the edge of the Earth, that happens every 90 minutes. So when you are going to show them that, when you are going to show them the sunset, and in case if there's a special occasions like maybe anything of any of the eclipse, solar eclipse or the lunar eclipse, there will be special occasions.
Yeah.
So all these things are going to be offered in the coming days by the private players, and for that, they need that capability of achieving the orbital velocity. Of course, Skyroot doesn't have the type of capability of payload. In that payload, when we send the human, it is the rated rocket, rated vehicle, rated crew modules. All those things are human rated. That, of course, Skyroot is nowhere, but then sure, the ISRO, what it is going right now methodologically, it has gotten the capability of it, but Space ISRO also needs to augment its load carrying capability. Right now, it has about 8 to 10 tons of load carrying capability, but that is not enough. China can lift up 25 tons in one go. That is how they have lofted that international space, their Chinese space station. So that sort of capability is required for India also, since PM Modi has already announced our space station. When we
Absolutely.
lift up the space station, that is the type of capability even ISRO
I don't
will
know
like
if
to
these
have.
space stations are being set up. India's space station gets set up by 2040 is what the ambition is. Could these private players also be allowed to make use of the space stations? Okay.
Why not?
That's
Why not?
interesting. Okay.
Why not? You know, when you have the space station, all the microgravity experiments being carried out by the school children, by carrying out the college students, by the research institutions, IITs, and last but not the least, I must tell you that right now there is only one institution in India, that is the ISRO itself has got, which is teaching about the rocket science. Why not the IITs, other IITs, which is dealing with the aerospace engineering? There also the facility of education, academia will have to also grow up in this area, which is right now lacking. You know, I belong to the life support technologies. I'm a design scientist of the life support technology, and there right now there is none of the institution in India which is teaching about the life support. Very recently, DRDO and DG DRDO, he has initiated one at AIT Pune, and that too is a limited thing. But all these must catch up with the type of requirement that is going on in the country. There should be most of the IITs, they should be able to teach about the space science, both human and otherwise. They should be also be able to teach the life support technology, which is nowhere right now. All these must come up in the coming times.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
I wish Government of India all the best.
Absolutely. And Dr. Selvam-Murthy, quickly a response from you before I wrap this up. So now, in this private space race, are there going to be laws that are going to be formulated? Would that be inevitable? Because what if space gets overpopulated? There are going to be private sector players that would be playing around. Maybe from the, we talk about middle income countries, and we talk about the developing countries, and that's where the future is. So would there be rules and regulations? Are there going to be laws that are going to be written, and who's going to be holding the onus of doing all of it?
Right. First, let me also comment on Group Captain Jas' remark that today Amity University has the Amity Institute of Space Science and Technology. Just wanted to supplement what he said, that academia are coming in this sector, and we have a separate institute. We are building a CubeSat now, 4 CubeSat, and we also have a Mars analog station. The first biological payload of a callus of a plant as well as bacteria is going to space from Amity University. And we run BTech, MTech, PhD program in Amity Institute of Space Science and Technology in space science. So this is one information in which human component is also involved. We will certainly invite you to come to Amity University and talk to them. Now, coming to the space laws, now it is time for us to look at a space commission, which is already there. ISRO is a commission. That Department of Space is a commission. And now they should come out with law, because this space can be used for strategic application. Like when the private players are coming in, so far ISRO was handling, you can maintain the secrecy, sensitivity, and others. But now you need to regulate also a framework you have to create in which, suppose what type of satellites are being launched. Because this is also, it should not be getting into an antisocial elements for launching it for a different purpose, because launch on demand. You can create a launch on demand. In 24 hours, you launch a satellite. So that is where you need to have regulation as well. And the space laws will be looking at when you are giving the freedom for the private players to coming in, there should be a regulation. And so this will be coming up by the government will take the initiative. And I'm sure ISRO would be already thinking, and Government of India would be looking at the space laws. And maybe an act. There will be an act in the parliament for this type of regulatory authority to be established. So all this will come, and it is time for India to look at it in a very cohesive, comprehensive, concerted way.
Absolutely.
And so that we will be globally competitive, because we have the regulation, the laws, and policies, right? Policies which is already there. So all this will be very essential when we look at India to hold the world market. These are essential, not just desirable, it is essential to have them. And also the testing facilities, we need more testing facilities. And also the certification agencies, as he was mentioning, Jha was mentioning, when you are putting human into space, there are many safety issues. So who will certify that this aircraft is a human-rated spacecraft? And so this kind of certification agency is also required. When you are looking at laws, space laws, you also need testing, evaluation, and certification agencies. So these all will
all
be
right. So all these, absolutely, it's absolutely the sky that is the limit when it comes to the space exploration that has been initiated now by Skyroot. I thank both of you for joining me on the telecast, and we'll keep a close eye on all these big developments coming in from the private space sector in our country. This is a start. It is a long way to go, and we are happy that this push has been made in the right direction. Thanks for watching NewsX.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.